You know the names Armstrong and Aldrin, but what about Lam and Cooke? They're the Aussie mates who became the accidental heroes of the moon landing.
Don't you know she heard it on a July afternoon?
Okay, Neil, we can see you coming down the ladder now.
Heard a man named Armstrong walk upon the moon.
1/5 of mankind at that time was watching. As a momentous piece of history unfolded.
Different, but it's very pretty out here.
It was just before 1 in the afternoon on the 21st of July 1969 when man walked on the moon. For those who were around then, it was one of those "where were you" moments. Way back in 1969, I was in Mr. Ferris's 4th class. There were many momentous events during my time at school: war in Vietnam, decimal currency introduced, a Prime Minister and government sacked, and in 1969, 2 men walked on the moon. I've come back to my old school, Beacon Hill Primary on Sydney's northern beaches, to recall the experience I had that day. All the students and teachers gathered here in the library to watch one of humanity's most significant achievements on a small black and white set out front. We were all silent as Armstrong came down that ladder, and then I noticed across the room my teacher was crying. I didn't understand why then, but 50 years on, I now do.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Neil Armstrong walked on something that had never been touched by any living thing from Earth. Buzz Aldrin stayed in the capsule for a while, just in case they had to leave in a hurry. When it was clear, his time came. Those first shots were possible because the crew manoeuvred a camera out from the side of the lunar module. But how those pictures got back to Earth was only possible because of something way back here in our own backyard.
It was such a good thing because...
They are in their 80s now, but these two fellas remember it like it was yesterday. You see, they were here.
I could see that screen across the room, like everybody else. A little green screen, I think it was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Little green picture.
Yeah, little
About that big.
Yeah.
Ben Lam was driving the radio telescope that day at Parkes in Western New South Wales. David Cooke was a control room engineer. But they were never really meant to be called upon. Once the module landed, the crew was supposed to sleep. But Armstrong couldn't wait and decided to take the moonwalk much earlier than planned. NASA was out of range and couldn't see or hear, and that's when the radio telescopes in Australia came in.
We haven't got another chance, we've got to do it.
Well, it could collapse.
That movie captured it best. The telescope was fully tipped over to see the moon when a series of strong wind gusts reaching 110 kilometres an hour hit. It was operating well beyond its safety limits. But not everything in the dish movie was fact.
Let me get this straight. You've lost Apollo 11.
So did you two blokes lose Apollo 11 at one stage?
Nobody lost Apollo 11.
No, we never lost it.
Now, many people believe the Parkes telescope was the only station receiving the moon's signal.
And at Houston, they had two choices, the choice of the Australian picture or the American picture. And the one from Honeysuckle was superior to the one from California.
You don't know what
The antenna at Honeysuckle Creek near Canberra actually broadcast the initial moon pictures, the first 8 minutes, including those important steps.